Good morning, everyone. My name is MightyStream, and I'm going to do your April the 2nd spiritual principle a day in a meditation. Hope you're having a beautiful morning. Let's go ahead and get into the meditation. In the meantime, if you need to reach me, feel free to do so at recoveryofhope21@gmail.com. Okay, look here. It is entitled, An Open Mind is a Lifesaver. I have a feeling this is going to be deep. Let's see what it has for us. Open-mindedness gives us the ability to see more and more clearly within ourselves as we go through the never-ending process of surrendering, taking inventory, and inviting change. That comes from the Living Clean book, chapter 1, opening essay. A closed mind is a killer, a member riffed on the ideal of a parachute, like a mind can't function well if closed. When we dive into recovery, we tug at the ripcord in an impulse to surrender with some pressure of courage and faith. Being closed-minded makes us jaded, sealing off our secrets and locking in bad habits. It excludes others, their perspectives, their insights, and their compassion. When we resist being open-minded, the light can't get in, so our humanity, is stunted. We can't see ourselves honestly. New ideals cannot penetrate our fortress of anger or avoidance, and we end up stuck in isolation. Getting and staying clean in a dares us to open the parts of ourselves we would rather keep hidden. As we prepare to engage each of the 12 steps, we have to keep our closed-mindedness in check. Through this process of self-examination that is afforded to all of us, we pry open our minds to a new way of life. We inventory our past so we can stop running from them and let go. We assess our shortcomings and assets to see ourselves clearly and to seek balance. We make amends to help us avoid the same mistakes in relationships. In addition to our minds, we open our eyes, our hearts, and our arms, helping others to seek change as we have. This process, however, does not end unless we stop attending to it. We don't arrive at openness and wellness and just stay there. To keep evolving, we keep relying on open-mindedness. The member continued, our feet may touch the ground for a moment, but life will have us back up in that plane soon enough. We have to jump and pull that cord again, and we want to continue to grow. Maintaining open-mindedness, even with the years clean, prevents us from becoming too rigid, from building walls that we can't see over, helping us to navigate new areas of conflict that arise. Where in my recovery can I be more open-minded? Who or what am I resisting today? What part does this spiritual principle play in the step I'm working on? If I've halted actively working on myself, what needs to happen so I can pull that cord and expand? Let's take a moment of silence, followed by the we version of Serenity Prayer. Moment of silence now, please. Thank you. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just for today, Please and thank you. You know, I'm sitting here thinking about that last sentence, that last question. If I've halted actively working on myself, what needs to happen so I can pull that cord and expand? That's a heavy question. The gist of this, the spiritual principle we're talking about, right, is open-mindedness and being able to see more and more clearly within ourselves as we go through the never-ending process of surrendering, taking inventory, and inviting change. Just in the step 10 alone, right? Just in step 10 alone, this is a regular process of taking an inventory of ourselves, right? And being willing to make prompt amends wherever it's necessary, whenever it's necessary. We're not afraid to look at a situation and say, I got, before someone comes to you, right? Before someone comes to you or, to myself and says, you really offended me. Before that even happens, I have a process of looking at and going over my actions. I'm not looking at myself in a paranoid type way, right? I'm not looking at myself, scrutinizing myself. Oh, what did you do bad today? No, that's not the point. The point is that if I am a spiritual being and I personally have a God of my own understanding that I am in tune to, right? Step 11 tells me I'm in tune through prayer and meditation. I maintain a conscious contact with the God of my understanding, excuse me. Maintain that conscious contact with the God of my own understanding, right? So in step 11, this is a process. I have a relationship with my higher power. And if I have that and I claim to have that, I am personally not afraid to look throughout the course of my day. It might be uncomfortable for some other people, right? When I contact them and say, I just feel like I need to go back over this and talk about this. I feel like I such and such and this happened. And I really want to make sure I, let you know I'm aware that maybe the way I said that was harsh. It hurt you, right? And it wasn't that I was trying to hurt you. I was rushing. I just want to come back to that and make sure that we're clear that everything's all right. Or it might not even be that. It might be, I don't like the way that you said that to me. I felt that was gaslighting. And I want to let you know, you need to stop trying to put me down and throw shade when we're talking, if we're going to have a relationship. It might be the other way. It may not always be that I personally am owing an amends to someone. It could be that the water's not clear. And I want to make sure that I remove the murkiness of a situation. So if I have that going on in my life, a lot of times I'm resolving the issue before the person can even figure out what was bothering them about it, right? I can have a conversation with someone and look and see in their face that something's not jiving for them. That's a perfect opportunity. Maybe I'm not coming across clearly, right? You seem like you might be confused. What's confusing about what I'm saying? So I make sure. I have this professor, and she is not an easy professor, but she is the individual that, for me, iron sharpens iron, right? So this professor, she has taught me, when you ask a question, know the question that you mean to ask. Because when you ask another question right after the first question and you don't give the person an opportunity to respond, you didn't know what question you wanted to ask to begin with. Make sure you know the question you want to ask, even if it means that you need to take a pause in the session and say, give me just a moment. I want to make sure that I ask what I need to know, right? Take a moment and make sure you're asking what you want to know, so that when they go to respond, they're focusing on that one question, not two or three. Make sure you know what you are asking before you ask. Ask one question at a time. Sounds so simple, but it has truly blessed me, right? So in our relationships, it's easy for people, because we're human, to be confused about what's going on. They don't always understand the gist of what you're trying to say. And it's okay to ask for clarity. Don't ever feel bad about asking for clarity. In the sense of open-mindedness, that is a part. That's a part, not just because you say it and I need to be open-minded to the fact that you said it and whatever you said. That's not how relationships work. I can't read your mind and you can't read mine. So that means that there has to be dialogue. However, I do find that people in general are afraid of dialogue, and it makes them closed-minded. Because if they dare acknowledge that I'm not sure about what you said, then somehow they feel like that reflects on their value. And that's not the case at all, right? As a recovering person, I believe that it's healthy to have dialogue. It's healthy to keep an open mind. It's healthy to allow feedback and to give feedback. Feedback is not easy to give if you don't trust that it'll be received in the way that you intended. So that's why when you're giving feedback, be ready to do what? Respond. When the person comes back with asking for clarity, be ready to respond in the same manner that you're open-minded in giving the feedback. Don't all of a sudden become closed-minded, because actually when you're closed-minded and people are coming back and asking questions about the feedback you gave, it really is showing that you were closed-minded anyway, and that the feedback may not necessarily be coming from a good place, because now you're all of a sudden non-responsive. We're grown people. This is a relationship. And so in that relationship that we're seeking to improve ourselves, hopefully improve others, right? Not necessarily with that intent, but to improve myself so that I'm a better individual, that I am pulling the cord and expanding every day. Because that's what recovery is teaching me to do, that this is ongoing. It doesn't cease. Just because I wake up in a bad mood one day, it doesn't stop. I'm still charged with looking at my motives and my intent and my communications, and I'm still employed with that, regardless to what kind of mood. Now, if I wake up in a bad mood, I might intentionally try not to engage as many people as possible, but just my day-to-day life. I mean, there's 4 other people in this home, right? Not 4 other people. I don't know where I got it. 3 other people in this home. There's 4 total. So I'm responsible for at least 2 of them. And many days, 3, especially if my husband is not feeling the best, right? So I just want to encourage you today to be reflective the way that I'm trying to be reflective myself. Have I halted actively working on myself? I would have to say in some areas I have, but they're not like, to me, they're recovery related, but it's more about health and fitness, right? Personal wellness, making sure that I keep my blood pressure where it needs to be, making sure that I exercise, that's a big one, that I eat right, that's a big one, right? So in the scope of recovery, the Living Clean book opens up our personal health, right? So we don't have to intentionally avoid those areas because they're not the common conversation. So I would have to say, yes, I have halted in some areas, especially with physical fitness. And I know that once I align that properly and get my blood pressure where it needs to be and not be afraid to go to the doctor like I sometimes am, once I get those things in check, I will be able to expand myself because my energy will improve. I won't find myself gasping, for breath because I'm trying to fit all one thing in the breath that I have, right? I will have improved my lung capacity. So these are things I want you thinking about because a lot of times we're just locked down to the 12 steps and 12 traditions and the concepts. And there's so much more that you may personally find yourself not willing to pull the cord on that parachute so that you can expand in other areas of your life. Let's take a look at that today. I am going to make sure I come back to this and focus in the spirit of prayer and meditation on this. Have a beautiful day on purpose. I intend to. It's been my pleasure being with you today. I will be talking to you tomorrow.